So what does a Warrior Protocol weekend look like? What's the experience?
What is the experience? Now, I don't give it all away because part of the experience is not knowing exactly what the experience is. I have a guy who came through who'd been through airborne school, and then he'd gotten comfortable. He became a personal injury attorney, became very successful, and had a good life. And he told me that the Warrior Protocol Crucible experience was the most intense thing he'd done since airborne school.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of think that's a little exaggeration, but it was cool to hear. So really what it is guys come down to Tucson for 3 days, and we spend some classroom time, and we look at concepts, much like we're doing right now. We talk through some really deep stuff. We get really clear on where we're at right now, where we want to get to, who we want to become, what is required of us to even achieve our outcomes. Another thing is that a lot of guys don't have a massive driving purpose in their life. They have some goals, but there's such thing as a major definite purpose if you read Napoleon Hill. And this is something which keeps you awake at night, wakes you up in the morning. If you die early, your last thought would be, shit, I didn't achieve that thing that was important to me.
Yeah.
And, I like my guys to have something massive. So I use the example of Chris there. There's a difference between becoming a successful PI attorney and deciding to become the most successful PI attorney in Arizona. That's his goal now. It's much bigger. It's way more challenging. How do you even measure it? But what's funny is that since he made that declaration, he's had some big clients and big cases come in. And maybe it's coincidence and maybe it's not, but it's interesting either way. So we spent a lot of time really getting clear on how do we walk out of this experience a fundamentally different man at the cellular level. I give guys training in some of the old Apache ways. I don't preach religion or spirituality. I just give guys experiences, and they take away whatever fits with their model of the world. And day one, I focus deeply on this ability to let go of everything and essentially become monk-like, become very quiet, very humble, very centered, very zero, in a way that when you're in that place, when you're using that state, all the stuff that happens in the world that throws most people out of balance and leads them to their destruction in whatever way that looks like doesn't really affect us. We can take a deep breath, just like in the shower, and just remain centered. Because when we're centered, now we can be strong, we can be creative, we can choose the right outcome in the right direction. So I go deep into that experience and what that looks like and how to build that into your life. Day two, I focus more on the other side of warriorship, which isn't being zeroed. It's being the most fiercest, most badass, most edgy motherfucker you can possibly become. In my early training, when I was going through this, I literally went from an experience in my 20s of months and months and months of purification, eating nothing but salad, meditating for hours a day, learning to move through an environment very, very quietly so people didn't even notice me. Overnight, my mentor had me go from that to somebody who was sticking his chest out, wearing bright colors, getting noticed, talking loud, starting arguments, getting in people's faces. So I can train myself to where I can get in somebody's face and I don't really care. I'm fucking comfortable there.
Mm-hmm.
And most people are very, very uncomfortable with any kind of interpersonal conflict. If you're not comfortable with it, you can't ever risk being there. And suddenly you can't have real conversations with your business partner. Suddenly you can't have real conversations with your wife, with your kids, because you're afraid of what they might think, how they might react. I want my guys to get to a point where they don't necessarily need to do it all the time, but if they end up in that kind of very direct interpersonal conflict, be that physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, they're pretty happy there.
Yeah.
And they're the baddest motherfucker in the valley, essentially. So I do a lot of training there, and that culminates in my guys essentially fighting each other, because the closest and most spiritual connection you can ever have with a woman is obviously making love to her. The closest, most spiritual connection you can ever have with a man is fighting him. And we build brotherhood by fighting each other. Most guys used to rumble with their friends or their brothers till they were about 12 years old, and then it became a problem because furniture started to get broken. Black eyes and bloody lips started to show up. And Mom said, hey, cut that out. Go do your homework. And it became socially unacceptable to rock and roll with each other. Well, I don't think that's healthy for men. Men need to have this emotional, verbal conflict and sharpness with each other, and sometimes we need to get on the floor, roll around, and throw some punches. So I create as safe an environment for that as is possible. We sometimes have guys leave my personal development course with the occasional black eye or displaced rib, but we're men. We fucking deal with it. Now, I used to have a Tai Chi teacher. He was French, and we used to train outside in Japan, and sometimes it would start to rain, and everyone else would run for cover. And he and I would keep training because he said this with a French accent. He said, come on, Simon, we are men, we are not made of sugar. And I took that on board. Like, take some pain, take some punishment. It's just life. Life's going to give it to you either way. So those are the experiences we have. And then day 3 of the Crucible, we go very, very deep into solving the problem that you mentioned earlier on in this conversation, which is the many, many personal development experiences. Get you hyped up, get you motivated, get your blood pumping, give you a vision. And then you go home and Monday right hooks you in the face and you're straight back to where you used to be.
Yep.
So I don't believe in that. What I do with my guys is we spend time really building out the next 90 days and putting things in the calendar, dates nights with our wives, progress reports on business. What am I going to weigh? What's my body fat going to be? And how am I going to get there? We lay it all out. We make ourselves transparent to each other. I even have a separate program that follows the Crucible where we literally have metrics and guys fill out daily data reports on what they've done to get from the Crucible to where they declared they were going to be. They're accountable to me. They're accountable to their brothers on data. And it's hard to hide. And as you know, what gets measured gets managed. And that's how I'm able to achieve my goal of not just using the Crucible to give guys a cool experience, but how do I guarantee to the highest level I possibly can that 90 days later, life looks much, much better. Confidence is up, conviction is up, capacity is up, and they're kicking ass.
I love it, man, because at the end of the day, you know what? I think as men, we often fool ourselves with being busy. I can be really busy doing a lot of stuff. But you know what? To your point, the numbers tell the real story. So, you know, like I joke with folks all the time, you can sit in front of your laptop and play on your website all day long. And yeah, you were busy. You might have been busy from sunup to sundown. But were you productive? Did you add another opportunity? Did you put another prospect in the funnel? That's the real measure, right? So busy versus productivity is completely different. And to your point, the numbers tell the true story. So I'm glad that's part of it. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be exciting.
One of the things I focus on measuring with the guys, because most of the guys I work with are either producers, that means they're mortgage, real estate, they're doing something in sales, or they're entrepreneurs of some type. And I love that because in some way or another, when I impact their physicality and they become stronger, when I impact their marriage and all the problems of marriage start to go away because they're actually for the first time in their life dealing with shit with their wife, when those problems start to clear the decks, suddenly business becomes way easier. Because when I go into a business meeting or I get on a webinar or I get on a call, I don't have 9 other things emotionally, luminously pulling at me. I'm just here because everything else is fucking dealt with.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's so important. And then the other piece of this is, you know, when it comes to, busyness, busyness is the worst drug you can ever be on, in my opinion. Busyness and being addicted to it is worse than drugs and alcohol and MTV because you will fool yourself until your dying day that you're being effective when you're not.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's this idea that one of the metrics I look at with my guys is not how many hours did you put in, not any of this stuff, but what did you do today that impacted your marketplace in some way? i.e., did you speak to an existing client and move them forward in some way or deliver some service to them? Did you speak to a prospect? Did you put marketing out? Did you do something which is going to have an effect on your bottom line? And if you didn't do any of that today, you did no work.
Yep.
I don't care what you did. You did no work. That's it.
Absolutely. Hey, again, I'm looking at...
It's like saying, hey, I studied, I read up on the ideal workout, and I read up on some nutrition stuff. That was my exercise today. Whatever.
Right on. So true. So true. Hey, you know, in the last 5 minutes, you said 10 other things that I could, you know, run with, but I'm looking at the clock. I just want to be mindful. Hey, look, if you're interested in what Simon Smart is talking about with Warrior Protocol and the Crucible, and I hope that you are, because I know that I am. And I, you know, it's that old analogy. You never stop learning. You can never stop staying sharp. You've got to be deliberate and intentional with going out and finding guys like Simon to pour truth into your life, make you a little uncomfortable, but right, that builds us and makes us stronger. But if you're interested in connecting with Simon, you can find him on Facebook at Warrior Protocol. You can visit his website, www.warriorprotocol.com. And somewhere on here, down below or on the side or at the end of the video videos here, I'm going to put in Simon's free Warrior Protocol training videos, which I've gone through, and I would encourage you to go through, and would love to hear the feedback on just the deliberateness and intention of walking, the cold showers, think about your thought, being quiet, all those things. That's at warriorprotocol.com. Get Warrior Edge, but look for the link down here. And lastly, if you want to just have a conversation with Simon about the Crucible or anything, right? You can reach out to him at simon@warriorprotocol.com. And with that, Simon, any last words, any parting ideas that you want to share with us?
Yeah, as far as reaching out to me, I love working with very, very successful, high-performing guys. That rocks my boat. Last week, I was working with a guy who contacted me. He got kicked out by his wife. He was living in his car. I like that too. Listen, I've been in places in my life where I was in pain, where I was stuck, where I could not get things to work the way they needed to work. And when I came through the other end of that dark night of the soul that I had to go through, one of the things that really remained with me is I want to be there as a pillar of support for other men in our communities. So, wherever you're at, reach out to me. The only caveat I have is, if you're listening to the stuff that I'm talking about, or you're watching me and you're intimidated and it doesn't seem pleasant, you're right. It's not going to be pleasant because change isn't pleasant. Here's my parting thought, my brother. Modern personal development is fundamentally broken. It's become a series of platitudes and feel-good bullshit.
Yep.
And especially when it comes to men, because again, I truly believe with every guy I've ever worked with, the physicality was the platform for all the change. There's other stuff to deal with, but just feeling good will not ever actually give you results or move you forward or make anything change. It'll just give you a little dopamine release, just like buying stuff on Amazon, just like watching porn. It's all just feel good, no substance, white bread rather than protein. So if you're finding the same frustration that I did with the world of personal development, what I do is very, very different. I use NLP, I use hypnosis, I use a lot of very, very fast, effective modalities to get inside guys' brains and change things around in the way that has to happen. But a huge amount of what I do is based on things that have been tested on the battlefield. My martial art, where I learned a lot of things, goes back 900 years, and if it didn't work on the battlefield, I didn't get it because it isn't around anymore.
Yep.
And I only want to put things in my life which are tested, field tested for the hardest things that life can throw at them. And I want to be resilient, and that's what I teach my guys. And if that appeals, reach out to me.
Nice. And with that, guys, look, I just challenge you again, reach out to Simon or anyone, but reach out to Simon. Make the investment of at least talking with him. Make the investment of traveling to Tucson to check out the Crucible. I don't think that you'll have any regrets for it. I'm looking forward to going because at the end of the day, I owe it to my wife, my son, my daughter, all the communities in which I interact. Success is my responsibility in whatever it is, and I don't do it by becoming comfortable, stuck in a rut, sitting on the sofa, watching TV, and not investing in myself. So, again, Simon, thank you for your time today, and men, hit up Simon and make sure you talk to him and make some changes.